topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, sunny Florida. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This is the first Monday of the month. That means we have our great long-standing guest, Provise Management Group with Ray Ferrara. We have got a great show for you this morning, and then we're going to follow it up with a show on estate planning. So we're glad you joined us. I see where Ray is in the queue. Good morning, Ray.
Steve, good morning. And
how are you?
Happy Monday.
Yes.
And
were you playing that piano in the background, Ray?
No, you do not want to have me playing the piano.
Hey, good morning. This is the first Monday of the month, and not only do we run your show, your live show first Monday, but also we'll run another live. That's how important this show is. Ray, we are seeing so many new people finding your show. Tell people about Provise.
Sure, Steve. Provise is a financial planning and investment management firm with offices in Clearwater and Tampa, Florida. But we are serving about 1,100 clients scattered over more than 30 states and managing on their behalf something right around $2 billion. We are financial planners first and foremost, and investment managers second, because we believe that just like insurance, education planning, retirement planning, estate planning, investment planning and investment work is a subset of the financial plan. And we always offer our new potential clients a 1-hour complimentary consultation in our Tampa or Clearwater office. And if that's not convenient, then we're happy to do it by Zoom. And all they have to do is call one of the numbers scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now. And that would be 727-441-9022. That's 727-441-9022. Just give us a call, say that you'd like to set up a meeting, and be happy to visit with you on a complimentary basis for an hour.
Ray, we started promoting your show a couple days out, and this is about managing your money. You would not believe what the number one question is that people wanted us to ask you. It's about the $5,000, this check that might be going out to everybody. Any thoughts on that at all?
Well, I don't remember the last time I got a check from the government that wasn't them giving me my own money back for paying too much in tax withholding. Candidly, I'm not in favor of the $5,000 checks. If we're serious about reducing the debt, we cannot afford to send out checks to I don't know if it was going to be $5,000 per household or $5,000 per person, but if it's $5,000 per person, that's a ridiculous sum of money.
It is household.
So with households, then we're still looking at something that approaches an astronomical number. I just don't see how you do tax cuts or continue the tax cuts. I shouldn't say a tax cut, but continue the tax cuts. I don't see how you cut enough revenue and start to reduce our deficit when you're going to start sending out free money. And free money always comes with a price. And in this case, it would probably come in the price of more inflation, because the money has to come from somewhere, and it comes out of thin air and would lead to additional inflation. So not a fan. I get the appeal. I hear people cheering in the background. I hear people booing me in the background right now for saying that.
Yeah.
But I'm not here to please everybody. I'm here to state the facts and the effects that it would have on the economy, which in our opinion would not be positive.
Another big question that everybody had was your thoughts on the first month of President Trump. This is in regards to money, budget. Any thoughts so far on what you've seen or heard?
Well, I don't think the Congress is in the president's good stead at the moment, because in his mind, they're acting too slowly. Clearly, he would have liked to have had this much further along than it is now that we're maybe 6.5 weeks into his new term as president. Congress has a tough act in trying to do all that the president wants. Over the weekend, in fact, there were several Republicans who came out and said that they would have a hard time voting for a new package of cuts and tax extensions if Medicaid was affected, that it's just too important a program to cut expenses. And the president had talked about trying to cut $700 to $800 million out of the Medicaid process. So it's a very difficult balancing act that Congress has to do to, the Republicans anyway, have to do to satisfy the president, and at the same time keep their constituents happy, because there are an enormous number of people who rely on Medicaid to provide health insurance. And in its own way, even though it's expensive to the government on one hand, it hopefully keeps the expenses down in healthcare on the other, because you're keeping people healthier rather than having to fight with diseases after they've manifested themselves, sometimes to a point where you can't do anything more about it. But that's just one of the many things that's there. So although the Senate has passed a bill that the president was not happy with, the House is still trying to put together, as in the president's word, that one great big beautiful bill, and are struggling with it. And I believe that they will continue to struggle with it. And I'll be very surprised if we get something out of Congress before tax day, which I know is going to disappoint the president, because he has other things that he wants to get addressed, including immigration issues, et cetera. Right now, the biggest issue is extending the debt limit. And if they don't do that, the government will shut down here very shortly. And some may think that that's a great idea, but in the end, it's not. And clearly, with all the people who have been fired, dismissed from their jobs, to have the government shut down further, the degradation in services and in other areas of the government could be devastating to us, and again, hurt the economy. So hopefully Congress will get its act together, pass a debt limit. Hopefully it'll get its act together and act faster than I think at the moment. But I don't see them getting a whole lot done between now and April 15th.
You know, Ray, people really respect your thoughts. We had a gentleman in St. Petersburg who said he never misses one of your shows. And he said, please ask Ray if he has been surprised by the fraud that's been found.
About the what that's been found? I'm
All
sorry.
the fraud that
Oh,
they're
fraud.
finding. Not a
Well,
frog.
yeah, yeah. So first of all, there has been talk of a lot of fraud, but there have been no large levels of fraud that have been pointed out up to this point. Clearly, there have been some situations where fraud has occurred, but it was occurring long before Doge came into effect and started looking at it. There have been numerous doctors and health systems that have been reprimanded, fined, and in some cases, criminal charges filed and convictions made for defrauding Medicare, not Medicaid, but Medicare. There are, I'm sure, other isolated situations that have occurred, but we haven't seen any evidence up to this point of massive amounts of fraud. It may be there, and certainly it's being talked about, but we have yet to see any hard evidence of overwhelming fraud. And if it is there, I'm the first one to raise my hand and say, whoever was responsible, you better be firing them. And number two, you better be charging them and then hopefully prosecuting and winning. There's no excuse for that to occur. But again, we haven't seen massive fraud up to this point, but that doesn't mean it isn't there.
Taylor in Naples, she said she's 56 years old and she wants to retire. She said, I have almost $1 million in my 401k, 150,000 in my IRA, and another 600,000 in non-retirement assets. She has no debt. Good for her. How do I get from now until 59 and a half when I can access my retirement accounts?
Well, let's say this. First of all, you can access your accounts at any point that you want. But the reason you're asking the question is that since you're prior to 59 and a half, there's a 10% non-deductible penalty for taking the money out prior to 59 and a half. However, there is a provision in the law that will allow you after age 55 to withdraw money from your 401k if you have terminated your employment, and to do so on a series of substantially equal payments over the next 5 years, which would get you to 61. Now, you have to do it for a minimum of 5 years. Or 59 and a half, whichever comes later. So you can tap into it, and the formula is based on your life expectancy at the age that you do it. And so if you were to take advantage of one of our complimentary 1-hour consultations, we would be able to learn enough about you to tell you the amount that you could withdraw from your 401k. And you would be able to do so without a penalty. So if you would be kind enough, hopefully you're listening in today, to give us a call at 727-441-9022. That's 727-441-9022. We'll set up your complimentary consultation, try to provide you with some information, and make sure that you qualify for this exception, which does exist for 401ks.
Now we're hearing more and more about older couples, married couples, who are now thinking about going through a divorce. And we got a letter in from Hal in Daytona Beach. And he said, I'm 62 years old and my wife of 35 years and I are getting divorced. How do we divide our assets in a fair way?
Well, first of all, I'm very sorry to hear that after a long marriage that you all have decided to go in a different way, and the personal decision that you've made. So there's lots of things to begin to consider as you're separating assets. There's actually two words, Hal, that you need to use. You don't need to. It's not just doing it in a fair way. It's also doing it in an equitable way. A fair way is simply divide everything in half
Right.
on the dollars. But that's not necessarily equitable because, as an example, if you take all of the retirement assets and your spouse takes all of the regular assets, the non-retirement assets, when you withdraw money from your IRA, you're going to have to pay ordinary income taxes on it. But when she sells appreciated assets in the other account, she'll only have to pay a maximum of 20%, where it is possible you might have to pay as much as 37%. So in dividing assets, one needs to look at not only what's fair, but what's equitable on a after-tax tax basis. Another mistake that is often overlooked during the course of a divorce is the home. If you are going to end up giving the home to your spouse, she will be able to continue the homestead exemption in the current home. She'll be able to continue the mortgage if you have one. If there is no mortgage, obviously she won't have to go out and refinance the house, most likely. And then you would have to go out and buy a new home. You're going to do it at a higher interest rate on the mortgage probably than what you had in your other house. In addition, your taxes are going to be higher because you're probably going to buy a house that's of greater value than the tax value of your current home. So you got to take all of these things into consideration. And there are several more examples, but we just don't have time to go through them all. And again, Hal, as mentioned earlier to Peggy, take advantage of our 1-hour complimentary consultation by simply giving us a call at 727-441-9022. You're in Daytona. We can either do it by phone or by Zoom, whatever would be your preference, and learn more about what your situation is and look for things that are not only fair, but are equitable as well.
We've got this this debt ceiling is looming. What do you think are the odds on a government shutdown? And if there is, is it going to affect the market, Ray?
It absolutely will affect the market, and it will affect the economy, particularly if it's for a sustained period of time. And I guess I'll define sustained period of being more than 10 days or 2 weeks. The shutting the government down will be, as it has been in the past, a negative for the economy on a long-term basis. And obviously, the longer the shutdown occurs, the more damage that is done. If it's only for a few days or a week and Congress gets its act together, then it's not going to have a major long-term effect. Touched on this briefly earlier, and I said they got to get off their collective butts and get this thing resolved, and figure out a way to get it passed. And with something this important, I realize that there are competing agendas on both sides of the aisle. But ladies and gentlemen, take a step back and find some common ground to be able to move forward. Have you become so dysfunctional that you simply can't figure out a way to navigate the extension on the debt ceiling? So the real question was, what are the odds? Right now, I'm going to say that it's probably 40% that we will have a shutdown, 60% that we won't. But it's drifting towards flipping itself in a very short order if Congress doesn't get off of its collective butts.
I'm so tired of Congress, both sides, kicking the can down the road, because it's going to end up hurting our kids, and it's so sad.
It's going to not only hurt our kids at this point, kicking the can down the road on things like Social Security. They will affect us that are thinking about retirement, those that are in retirement. So it's becoming a very uncomfortable and difficult situation. And, you know, Steve, the fact is we're the ones responsible for electing everybody to go back to Congress. So we have to point the finger not at them, but at ourselves. And of course, the way it works is I love my congressman or congresswoman. And it's all those other folks in Congress that are the problem. It's not my representative. And that's the way most of us look at it. Again, Congress been elected to do a job, and I just wish they would get it done.
You know, speaking of Social Security, and like you said, we don't know if these are facts or what, but wow, when I see all this money going out to people who are 120, 130, 150 years old, I mean, could that save Social Security if that's really true? We can cut out all that waste.
Well, if it were really true, it would be certainly worthwhile to cut out all that waste. I don't know that it's really true.
Right.
The interim director who was put in place by the president himself has said that, yes, there are records that do not have a date of death in them, but that doesn't mean that benefits have been continued to be sent out to those folks. We talked about fraud and abuse earlier, and clearly there are likely some folks that have managed to continue to collect Social Security on behalf of somebody who passed away. From time to time, you'll read articles about someone who was arrested as a result of that. So it is happening. But again, is it happening at a large enough level to make any significant difference? I doubt it, but the jury's still out. So let's not make a federal, pardon the expression, a federal case out of it until we know that there is a federal case there to start with. Just because somebody said that all of these people are getting paid, it doesn't mean it's happening. And again, the president's own interim director has indicated that that it is not happening at that high level.
Ray, how do people reach you?
So best way to reach us is to give us a call at 727-441-9022, 727-441-9022, or shoot me an email at info at provise.com, and that's PROVISE.com. Or if you're a little hesitant, go to our website first. Take a look at us, see who we are, and you'll find that we're one of the larger financial planning and investment management firms in the country, working with about 1,100 families and clients, and managing somewhere around $2 billion. So give us a call, 727-441-9022. Take advantage of that complimentary 1-hour consultation.
Ray's been with us for 3 years now. We do another live show in 2 weeks. Please join us then. Ray, thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. God bless you.
Steve, thank you very much, and have a great rest of the week and 2 weeks until I see you again 2 weeks from today.
We love you, Bo. See you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That's Ray Ferrara, Provise. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, I've got a great show on estate planning. We'll be right back.
Bender Rembaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On KBRLegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rembaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rembaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rembaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. South Florida, welcome. What sunny day here in South Florida. And we have got such a great guest with us. I've got a surprise. I didn't tell him this. I've got a surprise. We got a call after his last show. Let me introduce you to Attorney Andrew Rosenberg. Good morning, Attorney.
Good morning, Steve-O. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I got to tell you, I wanted to wait for the show.
Uh-oh.
You never know who's listening to the show. We had a senior partner of a local law firm contacted us who found your show by accident, and he said, I actually sat and listened to the whole show hoping I could find something wrong with what he said. And I got to tell you, you've got his words, you've got a super expert. And I thought that was so nice because, Andrew, usually when people call and they want to do a show with us, they cut down whoever the expert is and tell you they're better. But that was really nice. I thought him calling up and saying how great your show was.
Well, yeah, I really appreciate it. Tell the gentleman or woman, whoever it was, that I really appreciate those words. It means a lot, actually, because I really try to make sure that what I say is accurate as best as I can and that it helps clients and people out there in the public so they understand this crazy world that we call estate planning and elder law.
Well, Andrew, I really feel I've been doing this for 15 years, and we have estate planning shows all over the country. I got to tell you, when an attorney decides he wants to practice law and estate planning, and like yours, that's basically all the area you cover, you've really got to have a heart for people. It's the only area of law that you really need to care about people, and you do.
Yeah. I would agree with you. It's you got to have patience, and you got to like people. I mean, I've always liked dealing with people and dealing with people that tended to be older. I always like to hear their wisdom, how they made a living, what their life story is. It's always interesting to me, and that's kind of between that background and then I may have been a doctor when I grew up, Steve-O, but unfortunately I had to deal with cancer in our household growing up. My youngest sister got diagnosed with a brain tumor when she was 9.
Wow! Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and I was 11, and so for 10 years she lived with it until she passed away at 19. And so I may have been a doctor because I really liked that side of the thing, but it was seeing the whole mess of what happened through the 10 years and then seeing my parents dealing with all the legal things associated with my sister, may she rest in peace, my sister, and all the things that happened kind of got me towards going into law and estate planning. It's just, I never thought I would do this, but I love it. I love dealing with people. I love talking, doing workshops, all that kind of stuff. And I ended up being, as I always like to say, I ended up being the only shyster attorney in my side of the entire family. Everyone else is in
I,
medicine.
I hear you. You know, what's so sad is the other day in Green Acres, two older people pedestrians were hit by a car, passed away. And gosh, my mind always goes, did they settle their estate? Because, we never know when we're going to pass. I mean, gosh, we see people 30, 40 years old passing away. And one of the biggest purposes of this show is people, even if it's just a will or a trust, need to come sit down with you. And that thing, estate planning, does not mean you have to be a multimillionaire.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually, in my workshops, one of the questions I ask is at the beginning, I have a slide and I say, who needs estate planning? And my answer to that is everybody. I mean, everybody needs estate planning. If you got a kid going off to college, okay, you need estate planning for the kid because they're technically adults at 18 years of age in the state of Florida. And if something happens to them and then they're in the hospital and they're unable to communicate, you're going to have a hard time talking to these doctors because they're adults without the proper legal documentations of a healthcare surrogate or whatever it might be. Same thing with financial affairs for kids that are 18. And they usually don't have any money, the 18-year-old kids, right? And then you got kids that, get married. I just was at a wedding last night. It was a wonderful wedding. And, they're young. They're just starting out. And, they need to have estate planning put into place. They don't really probably have much in assets, but they need to really take care of themselves so that they can deal with, if God forbid there's healthcare crises or there's financial concerns, they need to have documents in place. They're up in New York, but they need to do it up in the New York area with an attorney up there. So it's a great point is that people think that you have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars for estate planning, and that's far from the truth. Everybody needs estate planning. And that's what people don't understand. And again, regarding that horrible situation that you mentioned, as far as those people in that tragedy up in Green Acres, I think you said, I actually in my workshop when I was visiting. Here's the story. When I was visiting my son and I went to go to Duke Law School, my son was lucky enough to get into Duke Law School this past year, and we were trying to make final decisions. And we were visiting up in April of last year to visit the school and everything. And the USA Today came on my hotel doorstep. And one of the pages was an article that says estate planning is in decline and on a national level. And
Wow.
I've been this for over 30 years. And unfortunately, Steve-O, estate planning, people think they're going to live forever, and they just don't think that things are going to happen to them. And then you're left with your pants down, and the family's in a lot of problems, and it causes all sorts of headaches and issues and everything else that you just don't want to have happen. And it's kind of shocking that I saw that article and I put it in my workshop now. And I tell him, I said, there's only one time, Steve-O, guess what time estate planning went nuts for me? Went crazy. People are in decline. People just don't do it because they don't want to think about mortality until something happens to them. But when do you think my estate planning went nuts?
Don't know.
COVID.
Oh, yes.
When COVID hit, it was
that's
nuts.
right.
Because that's the one time where there was a huge spike in the estate planning for me, because I was getting calls all over the place saying, hey, Andy, I need to do my estate plan in case I catch COVID. I don't want to die and not have things in place. And it was
Right.
nuts. It was crazy. There was no one, you were staying away from each other. You had to wear masks and no one was seeing each other. People were working from home. I got kicked off the island from my house. I was home with my wife and my two college kids, and they said I talked too loud. and they said, we can't have you at home with the kids and my wife working and my dog. They said it's too much. So I got kicked off the island. I had to come to my office by myself every day, which was great, by the way. But I would be doing these estate plans, and I would have to go out with a mask on outside, and the clients would be sitting in the cars. They'd roll down their windows. I'd have them go over the documents. They'd sign the documents in the 95-degree heat, and I'm sweating like you can't believe outside. And then my witnesses would be looking out the window from the waiting room, and then I'd have to bring everything in, have the witnesses sign, and so that the clients could see from their car them signing, and then I had to scan everything in. It was crazy, but the point is that people just, that's another example of when people weren't planning, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, this is a horrible situation. Well, let's plan. The airline wrecks we've seen, people I'm sure were not organized, and we're not. Luckily, a lot of people, everyone survived in that Toronto one recently, but are they ready? Were they ready for things to happen? And that's what I try and preach is, are you going to be ready when the SOL hits the fan? Are you going to be able to sleep at night knowing that you've done everything you can financially, but also estate planning wise?
Anybody, it's been a while ago, Andy, that if you follow the Terry Shively case, there's a reason why you've got to take care of your business. Because look what happened to that family.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, we can go down the list, Steve-O. You could say Prince. There's an example.
Yes, not having a will.
Yeah, we could say, who's another one I could think of? How about the family I'm drawing on that owned the Dolphins?
Yes, I heard that's right. I don't remember the name, but yes, I heard he did.
Think of the last name of the Dolphin ownership group. But they didn't plan for taxes back then, and they were forced to sell for the taxes. They had to sell the team. They didn't want to sell the team. Here's another example. I wonder what about Gene Hackman? May he rest in peace. Whether he had his affairs in order, we'll find out over the next couple months, probably. Hopefully, if you don't hear anything, that means he had everything in order. But just because you're famous doesn't mean that you got things lined up properly. And trust me, everybody out there, you don't need to be famous to have things set up properly.
It's so important that, and you've got a workshop tomorrow. What is your workshop on?
Yeah. I was asked to speak up in Delray. So yeah, we have a workshop tomorrow at Abbey Delray South at 2:30 in the afternoon. So if anyone wants to attend that, they need to contact the office and let us know, because it's getting pretty full up there. So we want to make sure there's space for you. But yeah, I got one tomorrow, believe it or not.
We just got a question in from Albert in Delray Beach. I think it's a great question. He wants to know, what is the difference between estate planning and elder law?
That's a great question.
That is a good question.
It's a great question, actually. I mean, I think people will have different answers to that question if you speak to different attorneys. But my definition of the difference between estate planning and elder law planning is estate planning is planning for the unexpected scenario or expected scenario when we do pass away, and all the other things that happen during our lifetime. And so it's the wills, it's the durable powers. If you a lot of people don't realize this, that and everyone thinks about death when they're thinking about estate planning, but estate planning also has to deal with not death, but when you become disabled or incapacitated. So estate planning is dealing with death, but also dealing with incapacity and dealing with the financial affairs of incapacity and the healthcare decision making for incapacity. So estate planning, in my opinion, is dealing with like wills and trusts and durable powers and healthcare surrogates and living wills and the DNRs and all those kinds of things is estate planning. And you could be 18 years old all the way up to 100 years old or whatever to do estate planning. I think, and other people may disagree, but I think elder law planning has to do more with planning for Medicaid purposes. At least that's how I define it when I say elder law planning. It's planning for the situation where you might have to go into a nursing home or need assisted
Long-term care.
living, long-term care, or assisted living, or home health care. All three of those.
Yes.
And so the question becomes, in the elder care arena, are you organized legally and set up properly for elder care purposes? And what do I mean by that? I mean, listen, we all pay every paycheck, we all pay money towards Medicaid, okay, taxes. You know, a lot of tax money goes towards Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid, all that good stuff. So you may reach a point where you need to go into a long-term care facility or something like that. And the question is, how are you going to pay for that? And what happens is there's three ways that you can pay for Medicaid, okay, or long-term care, if you're in a Medicaid facility. The first way is if you have long-term care insurance, which is obviously the best way. And most people do not have that. It's very expensive. It's really important, but it's really expensive. And the problem that I've seen over the past 20, 30 years with long-term care insurance, as you know, there's car insurance, there's homeowners insurance, flood insurance, all that. There's also insurance for long-term care purposes. The problem that we've seen as the attorneys in the field is that the long-term care insurance premiums that everyone has been paying keep getting jacked up every other year. And it gets to a point where the people can't afford it anymore. So they've come up with a new product fairly recently over the past several years or so, where these insurance policies come out, right? And they put a long-term care rider on it. And then by doing that, you still get the same benefit for the most part, but their premiums stay flat. So you don't have these huge spikes. So getting back to my thing is, how do you pay for this stuff? The first and best way is if you have long-term care insurance. The second way is if you don't have long-term care insurance, guess what's going to be used to pay? Your income and your assets. Until your income and your assets are dwindled to next to nothing. And then the third way that gets paid is Medicaid. You qualify for Medicaid. So the question is, elder care or elder law is, what happens if we have income and we have assets and we're above the Medicaid thresholds? We won't qualify, but we want to try and qualify legally to get there. How can we do that legally? What are the rules and how can we legally set things up? And that's where elder care specialty comes in, and that's what we do as well. So if there's a big distinction, in my opinion, between elder care and estate planning. Again, estate planning is your wills, trusts, and all the things that we need to do for your daily lives. And then if you feel like or you're concerned about elder care, that's where you're concerned about getting older and you're concerned about getting Alzheimer's or having physical problems, and you need to qualify for nursing home care or long-term care or assisted living care. How do we protect our assets for that situation? I hope that that bifurcation.
Yes. I want to get 3 or 4 texts right now. Andrew, I'm really enjoying your show. What do you like better, wills or a trust?
I like both, but
Okay.
What people don't know, Steve-O, and it's, I've been doing this for a long time. People don't understand that a will guarantees probate court. So people think that if they pass away, they think it's the movies, Steve-O. It's like the movies, okay? You remember, you've seen movies where like someone passes away and they show the scene in the movie where you're at the attorney, you're in a big, beautiful conference room, expensive conference room. The attorney's there and you got all the beneficiaries there, and the attorney starts reading the will, and then the credits roll in the end of the movie, right? But that's not how it works in real life. What happens is if you have a will, you're guaranteeing probate court. and that's and I don't like that. I make a good living.
No, that's expensive.
It's very expensive. It's time consuming. It's public record. There's a lot of problems with. I make a very good living with probate. I mean, it has to happen because people are not educated. But what I do is, if possible, I try and plan accordingly, where I can do the estate planning side, the elder care versus the estate planning side, which might include wills, but also other documents, maybe ladybirds, all sorts of other types of things that we can get to in another discussion that will take care of things, and it will be less expensive than doing your estate plan with a trust. So a trust is great. I love trusts, but I also like wills in the right situation. And I do a lot of wills because I can draft everything with all the other estate planning documents to avoid probate court. And we only have the will just in case we forgot something. And hopefully it will never get used. So if you ask me what do I like better, everyone comes in to meet with me and saying, I need trust work. I need trust work. And then I feel my job is to analyze the situation and then say, well, maybe we don't need trust work. Maybe we could do it at option A, and it might be less expensive, and we're doing the same thing, versus option B, which is the trust and a little more money. So I like to give them options where it makes sense. But if you ask me what's better, both are good for the right situation. How's that? Typical attorney.
Wait a minute, Andrew. Wait a minute. An attorney trying to save people money? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, there's a reason why I have 400 plus Google reviews. I try to do the right thing, and hopefully word of mouth, people spread and they like what I do. That's kind of what I try to do. I've been doing that a long time. I'm getting to be an old fart, Steve-O.
Yeah, right. Listen, we are on so many different platforms. Andrew's with us live. A lot of shows out there are not live. We do a live show every other week for South Florida. And I can't believe I've been doing this with this great company, W4CY, for the last 2 years. And I just found out we're also on Pandora too. And I listen to Pandora all the time, but Pandora's got a huge library, which your show is on. Andrew, tell people how they can reach you.
Sure. A couple different ways. My email is andrew@rosenberglawfirm.net, and Rosenberg's ROSENBERG lawfirm.net. So andrew@rosenberglawfirm.net. That's the email. My office number is 954-755-7803. And the website is rosenberglawfirm.net. Those are the three ways that they can get a hold of me.
And don't forget about your workshop tomorrow at 2:30.
Yeah. I have two actually coming up. I have one tomorrow in Delray, 2:30 at Abbey Delray South. And then I have another workshop on March 12th at Total Wine in Coral Springs, Florida at 5:30. And those two workshops are going to be on the estate planning essentials and talking about all sorts of stuff regarding estate planning. I have other workshops down the line where I've been asked to speak where we talk about elder care. So there you go.
Well, I got to tell you, your show goes by so fast. You'll be back again with us live in 2 weeks. Andy, thank you so much. We are so blessed to have you.
I feel blessed to be with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good week.
You too.
That's attorney Andrew Rosen. I'm sorry, someone had just called me. Attorney Andrew Rosenberg. He's an estate planning attorney. That's it for us today. We will be back with you next week with more Ask the Experts. Thank you, Rebel.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.